This is a sample of the information provided as part of the flexible training resources available through hasup.com. Our training courses are designed to provide training participants with an understanding of food safety and quality system elements, and also offer user-friendly assessment activities and competency checklists to complete the training cycle. Training participants will gain a basic understanding of personal hygiene standards and their applications within food safety and quality systems. Basic knowledge competency will be verified through successful completion of the accompanying personal hygiene standards assessment activity. Basic skill competency can be verified through the Personal Hygiene Standards Competency Checklist available as a resource for this training activity. Key definitions for personal hygiene standards. Personal hygiene: the hygienic measures associated with a person's bodily condition, notably external cleanness, preservation of health and healthy living. Good personal hygiene ensures that germs found in or on the body are not transferred to food. Normal flora. Natural flora is the assemblage of microorganisms that reside on the surface and in deep layers of skin, in the saliva and oral mucosa, and in the gastrointestinal tracts of humans. These may include fungi and bacteria, and they inhabit the human body without causing disease. Personal hygiene standards development. When considering the development, documentation and implementation of personal hygiene standards within food safety and quality management systems, the following information should be considered to ensure effective outcomes. About personal hygiene standards: personal cleanliness and attire, personal behavior, personal health, hand washing. About personal hygiene standards. Personal hygiene standards are a very important factor in preventing contamination during primary production, food handling, production and distribution. Every food handler has the potential to introduce microorganisms into food, taking into account that microorganisms are all around us, and all over us. People are also quite often the source of food contamination by physical hazards, transporting foreign objects such as hair and jewelry into food. The objectives of personal hygiene standards are to ensure that those who come directly or indirectly into contact with food are not likely to contaminate food by maintaining an appropriate degree of personal cleanliness and behaving and operating in an appropriate manner. Personnel who have certain illnesses or medical conditions, or those who behave inappropriately can realistically contaminate food and put the consumer at risk. All food handling staff share the responsibility to ensure that appropriate standards of dress and personal hygiene standards are maintained at all times. All staff in a food manufacturing facility, including those employed on a contractual basis and those who do not directly handle the products such as maintenance and cleaning staff, are responsible either directly or indirectly for the safety of the food. Each and every staff member has the responsibility to ensure that the food that they prepare and handle is safe and suitable for consumption and free from contamination. A documented personal hygiene standards policy should be developed and implemented. This policy should also be used as part of the training program when inducting new staff members. The policy may include the following requirements: personal cleanliness and attire. Food handlers should maintain a high degree of personal cleanliness and, where appropriate, wear suitable protective clothing, head covering, and clean enclosed footwear. Facial hair should be trimmed, fingernails kept short and clean, and hair should be tied back. Cuts and wounds, where personnel are permitted to continue working, should be covered by suitable waterproof dressings. Uniforms. The use of appropriate uniforms is important to any food business. Uniforms including protective clothing, footwear and headwear should be provided where applicable to ensure the control of hazards. Best practice for food production relies on uniforms being suitable for the intended use, constructed of materials and in a manner that does not pose a risk to the safety of the foods being produced, laundered, handling and stored in a manner that does not pose a risk to the safety of the foods being produced, changed into and out of in a designated area that does not pose a risk to the safety of the foods being produced. Not a potential source of contamination to the product, so overalls should not have external pockets and should have cuffed sleeves. Aprons and overalls should be changed daily or more frequently if deemed unhygienic. They should be removed and hung in a designated area whenever the wearer leaves the food production area, in particular when going to the toilet or for a break. It is important that the laundering, handling and storage of uniforms is defined within documented procedures to ensure control over related hazards. This may take the form of ensuring uniform suppliers or service providers are included within the approved supplier program, their laundering chemicals are food industry approved, and that their procedures for laundering are suitable and effective. Headwear. There is no specific requirement for staff to use headwear unless they are working for a commercial manufacturer of high-risk products. However, virtually all food manufacturing facilities have internal requirements for personal head coverings. There is a general public perception that headwear should be worn, so it can be advantageous to encourage staff to wear head coverings whilst in the view of the public. Hair coverings can range from baker-style skull caps to traditional-style chef's white toques, and they also include shower cap-style head coverings and snoods for beard hair. It is important to remember that headwear should be kept in the same hygienic state as with the rest of the uniform. An additional advantage of head covering can be the use of different colored coverings to highlight supervisors and/or first aiders. Food service staff are not necessarily required to wear headwear, but they should observe a well-maintained hairstyle. Longer hair should be tied back to exclude excessive length and to keep it away from the face and product. Footwear. It is paramount that footwear for food workers also be maintained in a hygienic state. A high hygienic standard for footwear will assist in the maintenance of a clean working environment. Food industry work areas are well known for containing substances that may increase the risk of slippage injuries. It is important to use footwear that is appropriate for the work being undertaken. Good quality footwear should be non-slip, covered, made from a durable material that is non-porous, oil, acid and alkali resistant, hard-capped for safety. It most often comes down to management's decision as to what varieties are suitable to be worn in particular areas. Not only for food safety, but for workplace health and safety. Consideration to boot washing facilities or a food bath should be considered by plants processing high-risk or high-care products. Jewelry. It is generally not acceptable for jewelry to be worn in food production areas. The exception in many cases is a plain wedding band and medic alert bracelets. Jewelry such as wristwatches, earrings, bracelets and body piercings pose a threat not only as a physical hazard, but also have the potential for the harborage of microbial pathogens due to their inability to be hygienically cleaned. Personal behavior. People engaged in food handling activities should refrain from behavior that could result in contamination of food, for example, smoking, spitting, chewing, eating or drinking, sneezing or coughing over food, sitting on or leaning against any food contact surfaces. Personal effects such as jewelry, coats, bags and lunches should not be brought into food handling areas. Pre-employment and visitor screening. Prior to commencement within any food business, prospective employees should undergo a minimum of basic medical screening to ensure they are aware of their obligations under relevant legislation and best practice standards. Such testing may include a questionnaire, or may also include laboratory testing of samples obtained from an individual. Such analytical testing should include screening for pathogens which are noted within relevant legislation and best practice standards commensurate with the scope of the testing methods used. A health questionnaire is a common tool used to ascertain the appropriate status of a current or prospective employee, visitor or contractor entering nominated areas of the site. It is also important to note that visitors and contractors could also potentially contaminate product or process with carried food pathogens. In this case, it may also be beneficial to ensure all visitors and contractors complete a medical screening questionnaire prior to entering designated areas of the food business. Personal health. Working in the food industry can be a very physical job, and often work is needed to be carried out at disagreeable temperatures for prolonged lengths of time. At the outset, these things must be considered by the employer and employee. Sick employees and poor hygienic practices rank highly in the causes of foodborne disease outbreaks. People known, or suspected, to be suffering from or to be a carrier of a disease or illness likely to be transmitted through food, should not be allowed to enter any food handling area if there is a likelihood of their contaminating food. The types of diseases involved should be referenced to any applicable food legislation. Any person so affected should immediately report illness or symptoms of illness to the management. Medical examination of a food handler should be carried out if clinically or epidemiologically indicated. Conditions which should be reported to management so that any need for medical examination and/or possible exclusion from food handling can be considered include jaundice, diarrhea, vomiting, fever, sore throat with fever, visibly infected skin lesions, exposed injuries, sores, discharges from the ear, eye or nose. Observe poor hygiene practices which could lead to normal bacterial flora contaminating the product. Health regulations prohibit any person who is infected with a disease that can be transmitted by food to work as a food handler as long as the disease is in a communicable stage. It is the responsibility of the employee to inform the business owner or management of such illness. It is the responsibility of the license holder or person in charge to ensure compliance with this requirement and to notify health officials if a disease or outbreak is suspected. Did you know that HACCP.com includes resources that allow you to create, manage and implement GFSI and HACCP-based food safety and quality programs? Improve your food safety and quality skills and knowledge? Train and develop your team to create better food safety and quality outcomes? Find suppliers and service providers to partner with your business? The information and training resources available through HACCP.com include a variety of formats, such as website content, MP4, MP4 and text, MP3, PDF and slideshow. Are you ready to take the next step in your food compliance journey? Visit HACCP.com today to create your profile and access the full versions of our food safety and quality information packages and much more.